June 14, 2021 at 5:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Beckley?
Here.
Mrs. Grandison?
Here.
Mrs. Sproul?
Here.
Mr. Miles?
Here.
Mr. Trimmer?
Here. 5:30. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we do not have the Board 101 for discussion tonight, but we are going to discuss the ESSER survey, the safe return of in-person instruction and continuing service plan. So, and we could probably talk a little bit about the project, the turf, and our conversation with the city of Eurexville. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
In your board packets, I sent a survey. We had decided to survey the community regarding the ESSER funds. According to the Ohio Department of Education, the requirements of our safe return of in-person instruction and continuity of services plan, we have to post a plan by June 24th and then seek public opinion regarding our plan. So within the plan, we should talk about the health and safety, such as the universal and correct wearing of masks, modifying facilities to allow physical distancing, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and maintaining healthy facilities, ventilation, contact tracing, isolation, quarantine, diagnostic screening, efforts to provide vaccinations in the school community, and respect health and safety policies according to the state and local health officials. Another one is that we would have to address students' academic needs and students and staff social, emotional, and health and other needs for the safe return along with food services. Periodically, no less frequently than every 6 months, reviewed as appropriate and revised the plan. And plans must be in understanding format to the extent practical, written in a language that parents can understand, or if not practical, orally translated upon request of a parent who, with an individual with a disability, provide an alternative format accessible to the parent. So what you have all decided to do was to say, the last time we said, what are we going to do with our ESSER funds to be able to put out a survey? So by the letter of the Ohio Department rollout for this money, you guys have gone above and beyond by actually having a survey. So what the Beth Lynn, Jody Miles, Kim, and myself, we talked about rolling out this survey, and I need to find, so far, and Beth, since you're here, what date do we have on that to end? It's
This goes like this Friday.
This Friday.
But it comes to mind.
as of last week, whenever I printed these survey results for you for your packets, we had 90 results. And we had some employees, some parents, 60%, 35% were employees, 42% were residents, 4% were non-resident, 4% business leader, and then 1% was a student. And overall, in your packets, student curriculum was one of the high areas where we felt we should be using the money as far as the survey results. Mental health and supports was another area. The areas that were really low were personal proactive protective equipment such as masks and barriers, and also providing staff PD on infectious disease. People did like the idea of existing facilities updates and repairs, along with, looking at not as high, but new building or expanding existing buildings. So a lot of, as you hopefully read through the packet, there as far as what we could do with providing the money. I don't know, being visionary where this money how we would spend it. Kind of brought me back to the time I was working at a convenience store and got a scratch-off ticket and won $50. When I left, I had less money in my pocket that I went to work with because I gave everybody money because I had money. So if we need, in my opinion, being careful in how we spend this money, because this is a one-time deal. So some of the ideas were, hey, improve your buildings. I mean, that was, provide student curriculum. Some of the things that we have already planned for were, we spent, correct me if I'm wrong, Beth, close to $500,000 in new boiler ventilation for the middle school and the elementary.
Yes.
We have planned for the intermediate school the following year, and that'll be around 200,000, maybe 250. So, I mean, those are things that, without this money, those are going to be sitting on the back burner. Looking at roofs, and other possibilities. We're looking at those. You've already ordered $350,000 worth of student curriculum resources for next year, and you're already looking about $500,000 for the following year. Where we've talked about updating our tech tools in case we're in a pandemic and we have to go on a dime, go remote, like Promethean boards, better video equipment for teachers to teach remotely. Those are things that we're taking a look at moving forward. Those boards will last, 10 years or so, but right now, the phase-in project is, we have the money to buy 5. Usually, you buy 5, then 5 more, and then 5 more, and then by the time that you're at one point, then you're done. And then you're back over again, and maybe they get everybody a new technology equipment. So we had an all-day meeting with our administrators on Friday, and they had some, we went over this survey with them, and as far as ideas, there was like expanding a building for restroom facilities is something that was in there. That was something to them. Boiler repairs is not really that big of a deal to a building principal, but it is a big deal in the whole function of the school. Currently, the East Ward, or the elementary building, has the lowest square footage in the whole building. When we talk about social distancing, we have teachers sharing classroom space because of the size of the building. I think it's around 47,000 square feet. When those second and third graders move over to the intermediate, you go to a building that's probably one of the largest beyond our current high school, and there's plenty of space. So when we have to put our plan together and how we were looking at using it. But I said being visionary and saying what's going to get us the biggest bang for the buck down the road. Is how I look at this money, replacing roofs, expanding better bathroom facilities, expanding classroom spaces. We still have to spend 20%, right, Kim?
Yes.
For
On ESSER 3.
ESSER 3 for extended learning and curriculum. We have those plans put out there. We're looking at the curriculum, as I already mentioned. After school tutoring, beginning, we're looking at that potentially in like October, November, January through March, or somewhere in that vicinity, and then pick it up again in summertime. so extending the summertime. And, with our tutoring rate, with this ESSER funds, maybe we could give a bonus for teachers who tutor beyond so many days, that maybe they pick up a couple of extra $100 as a bonus to sign on to say that they're going to be able to tutor. So that we can do with the ESSER funds. So if we're impacting our students. This past year, our data showed that our kids did grow in how well we were from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. As a majority, we saw growth. How will we, on the achievement, the state report card, I don't know, we'll see that, but our kids were growing. So what we have provided for learning loss has seemed to help curb that. So those are some of my thoughts on that as you looked at it, but I don't know.
I would honestly like to see home ec come back in some form. I mean, skills maybe at the junior high, high school age, cooking, those basic things that I know my nieces don't know how to do. And they're in junior high.
You mean like a life skills class, maybe, with not just cooking, but life skills?
Yeah, like
The high school is bringing one of that back next year.
Through ag.
It's through ag, but it's
Food.
but it's
Okay.
more with the focus of food, and using that home ec room.
right. Just a thought.
Mr. Rentz, as you said, I apologize for not hearing, that this is a use it or lose it type thing on the money.
But we have to spend till 2023 before. So yes,
So
we don't.
there's not money coming, you spend this money on a boiler, and we purchase that high dollar item, we have to then be able to budget our money that's coming in, it's being generated through the tax dollars in order to maintenance that. It's not like we still have money coming in to take care of that.
Right. I mean, this is, for us, one time, if we choose to sit on it and say we're not going to spend it, and I say we're spending it appropriately, it's the biggest thing that we would have to look at, seeing what's down the road. You could look at adding programs, but how will we
How we fund it later.
maintain it? That's, I'm not saying not
No.
adding, I'm just saying I'm agreeing with this,
Yep.
maintaining down the road,
Yep.
which is a possibility
Mm-hmm.
to do, but it won't be through these funds.
Right.
So do you think that we should have maybe a work session with the board to discuss on our avenue with this?
It won't hurt. I think that, it would be appropriate for us to do that. Through discussions right now, we can take a look at things. If this survey is finished up by Friday, and honestly, it was out there on Facebook, so people are aware. And that was the last time I checked, was last week, like I said. And there are good responses, how we would use it. Having a work session to take a look at what we do.
Is this something that we could add at the end of the month on the 28th with, when we finish up with the finance?
If we just advertise it as, that we're going to go into a work session regarding,
I think that would be appropriate, and since we're going to meet again instead of having another spatial meeting. So if that's agreeable.
Do we have time, Brian, with the plans?
the plan has to be posted by the 24th.
Yeah.
But that's not the,
That's to seek public comment.
but that doesn't really have to do with the funds. That's just basically our plan to continue educating our students.
The curriculum, what we're doing with the 20% for the curriculum has to be posted by the 24th.
It's just, the plan has to include those things that Brian had said, like how we are going to continue to either stay in person or to remote, those plans of how we continue to operate. Not how
How
we're
we're
spending
spending the
the
money.
money, it's just how the continuity of the schools.
Well, I think we have pretty good idea, you know, that's compelled. Now we need to sit down and decide, okay, which way do we want to go with this? And like you said, it's a one-time money deal, so we need to get as much for our buck that we can.
I mean, your goal in 5 years or 6 years
Right.
from now would have been possibly going for a bond issue to go on campus. I mean, that's a goal down the road. Is that something, you know, that was being visionary, is that something that we take a look at earlier?
Right.
Or shifting our plans and changing them up because of this? If,
Well, then, let's put this on the agenda for the 28th. If you can get it in paper, you know,
Yep.
that we're going to do this. That way, we'll have a little time to work on.
and we'll update the survey or get the survey results
Yeah.
as far as our plan.
Okay. Thank you for that. Do you want to go in on the turf thing, or?
Turf-wise, the turf project, tomorrow there should be boots on the ground, pulling dirt off the field. And getting started with that part of the project. So that's a good thing there. We're still seeking the donations at this point for that, but that's coming along well. Last week, we met with the City of Yurtsville, Beth Lynn, myself, Mr. Beckley, met with the city and also with the engineers to come up with, we just needed access to be able to put in a water drainage line into the street. Long story, at one point, we didn't think there was a water line because nothing was in any drawing. The city didn't have drawings because of the fire. But last week, they dug up and found a manhole, so they found a line. But it wasn't big enough for what we needed. So we said, we need, what's currently is in there 15-inch. We needed at least 24-inch. And
Just for us.
just for
Just
the
our
field.
load was 24 inches.
Yeah. And going back to the city, seeking that permission to be able to put that in. Then we proposed the idea of saying, well, if you upgrade the size of the line, then how about let's look at splitting some costs. And so last Thursday, the city council agreed to splitting the cost of the 30-inch line that would lead from the corner there by the water park to the creek. And that is in your packet tonight for approval. The estimate that we had was $100,300 was the estimate that we had for the 30-inch line. And we were pushing for this starting back in October. COVID has impacted a lot of different things, and lead time on supplies is one of those things, where you could get something usually in a couple days to pick something up. Now it's a 4 to 6 lead time. So that's the biggest drawback with this. So we couldn't hold off any longer. So we're very grateful for the city. I think the city's very grateful. They will take over ownership of the line once it's all in, and they will make payments over a 2-year period to pay for the line. When they went through their water department budget, they're going to need every 2 years to make sure that they have the money to pay for it. Because it's not, right now, their budget's struggling, so, but they are committed to making sure that the school has this in. So, it's a good thing. It was a win-win for the city, and it's a win-win for us. We're glad that we are able to split the cost. And actually, the cost of it, our 24-inch line would have run us about $75,000. So being able to split the cost helps us.
Okay. Is that everything you have?
I just had that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Administrative reports, we'll have a Buckeye report next month. Sure.
I put my report on your desk before you guys came in, just a few things to let you know about. Tomorrow is a big day for Kim and I to sit with our state consultant for federal programs review. Spent a lot of time in the last 2 months making sure that we've uploaded and gathered all the evidence. So we're got our fingers crossed that we've given them everything that they need and that is a successful review. But we'll share that with you either on the 28th or the next month. LPDC, we did revise our bylaws. The last couple of years we've been looking at the bylaws and we've had a committee of 7 people that have been on that committee for several years, and in the old bylaws it said that they should be on a 3-year cycle, rotating in and out, and so this year that is starting. Actually last year we started with putting a new admin in, and this year will be another admin and a teacher. So every 3 years we're going to follow the bylaws that are written, and we've made some adjustments specifically to like dates and when things are due for our teachers. They had a March date in there that teachers had to have everything turned in for the LPDC to approve before their June licenses are renewed. And that I'm still getting even today LPDC credit activity requests for approval for licensure renewal in June, so that wasn't feasible. So we made some adjustments to that. I just wanted to share with you what those bylaws are, those changes. JEDC met in their last meeting in May. They set their priorities for next year. The first priority is making sure OTES 2.0 rolls out successfully. We will still next year meet monthly to talk about things that are happening and address any concerns that may be occurring with the evaluation, making tweaks as necessary, hopefully as little as possible, because I felt like we spent a lot of time and effort getting things right the first time. So we'll see how that goes. And then we also have to continue to develop Randy Fox's family advocate evaluation. We've got a start on that. We just need to finalize that. So those are our 2 priorities for next year. 21st Century Grant Update. Those were submitted as of May 28th. Wanted to thank Amy Kahn and Brian Watkins for their input with middle school and high school grant. And also want to thank the ESC consultant, Angela Hicks. She wrote the middle school, high school grant with the input from the district. And it was very, very helpful to have her do one of those grants. So we didn't have the burden of doing both of them. But they are submitted, and we have to wait until August till we find out whether those have been awarded. Preschool licensing visit. We were hoping that we would get through this year without having a license visit. They showed up on the very last day of preschool to do their license visit, but it went well. We didn't have any issues. Everything was in order as it should be. So licensing is good to go. However, we'll have another license visit at the beginning of the school year because we're changing locations. So just to make sure everything is still in place in the new facility. So that will be coming up. Just wanted to kind of communicate with you that there still are some spots available in preschool. We have 10 ECE spots. Those are spots for students of low-income families. And we have 8 spots for students with IEPs. So if anybody is aware of families out there that have preschool students that are in need, please give us a call here at Central Office. The number is 740-922-5478, and it can be directed to Tammy McMillan. Consolidated continuous improvement plans. Those are our federal dollars from Title I all the way to Title V, and expanded learning opportunities and all of that. I've met with the building administrators. They each this year had to do their own building plans that were coordinated with the district plans. Those have been submitted as of today. Kim and I will be sitting down here in the next couple of weeks to organize the budgetary side of the federal programs. Right now, they've allocated our allocation of Title I funds, and those other funds kind of trickle in. Those have to be submitted by June 30th, so we'll keep you updated on that. Ell Results, those are English language learners. As of last year, we only had 2 students that fell within that category. We had a student that was a senior who has since graduated, and we have another student that I believe will be 5th grade this year that meet that criteria. They have to take the ELPA test, or Ohio English Language Proficiency Assessment, every year until they score a proficient rating on all of the 5 components. The one that graduated obviously is not coming back to take the test, but the one that has not met that will take that until he passes. And he'll hopefully continue to get the services that he needs to help him improve his English language. And this is the one area that I feel that if we get something in federal programs review that's maybe something dinged, it may be this, because we don't have a large population of ELL like they do up the road. So the programming that we have is very, very minimal compared to some other districts. So just kind of a heads up that we've submitted everything that we have, and hopefully that will be appropriate. And state testing, the spring assessments that were taken, the end of June, June 30th, all of those results will be in. So we'll probably have an analysis for you in July. Okay.
Any questions for Julie?
When the state comes in, what is their biggest concern, the preschool, what are they looking for?
Well, there's 2 different reviews. One's a licensing visit, which they make sure that your staff has met all the requirements, that have the professional learning, they have these proper certifications, that we're maintaining student-teacher ratios. There are 4 ratios you have to maintain, like 1 teacher per 8 children in our special ed, handicapped special ed classrooms, and then 1 to 12 in our non-special ed classrooms. There's things we have to have posted around the building, the medication, the way that we dispense that and lock it up, that's all monitored. They go through every classroom to make sure things are set up appropriately. So there's a whole checklist of what they look at. And then the second rating is step up to quality, which is more about like the curriculum and the things that we're doing academically for the students and socially, emotionally. And we submitted a ton of information, kind of like the federal program review this year, not quite as much, wasn't as extensive. But pre-COVID, I submitted that last year, and I still haven't heard from that. So they said, if you didn't hear anything, you're good to go. And yeah, so we're a 5-star, and I think we're going to maintain that.
And in the new budget that's coming out, though, the step up quality, and I only know this because I have an ELO preschool person at my house who works with us every day, that they're looking at possibly taking out the step up quality requirements to a certain extent, that you don't have to, basically reducing it to they don't have to do it to get your funding. So a private daycare who does step up quality, and some of the points that they receive are, do you have paid vacations? Do you have paid holidays? Do you provide insurance? So those are some of the why schools should be a 5-star, but that puts them really over the top. But now that the state legislatures at this point are looking at pulling that off, that they can still get funding even though they aren't going through the step up in quality. Kind of step up in quality was a big deal when it rolled out, and now there must be something behind it that's not pushing it because of groups not getting their funding. So we'll have to kind of watch that one, but it should not affect us with our funding and our ratings either, though.
Well, there are limited early childhood care facilities around anymore, and possibly some of it is because of the requirements for step up to quality. Even the privates had to have, I believe, a 3-star rating to get funding. So if they reduce that, maybe that will open up some additional services for people that can't find. I just got grandbabies, that's how I know they're just not available out there right now.
That's what you said, you get babysitting at night because there's nobody available.
Yep.
So it does make a difference.
Any other questions for Julie? If not, Beth?
Okay, sorry, I did not have a chance to do a complete report this time. Seems like a lot going on. I wanted to let you know the high school roof, I mean, it looks like it's finished, but we're really not done. There's still a final, in the contract, they had to have it finished by August. That's contractually. And they ended up, the plan was it was supposed to come do so much of ours, go some to another job and then come back and finish. They ended up staying on our job so long and then they're off doing other jobs. But they basically need to come back, still finish up, we're holding that last payment of funds to them to their sidewalk that was broken from the lifts. There's some things, some dents, just some little things we see that we do the final walkthrough that will be addressed. So if anybody said anything to you about any concerns or anything, if you'll please let me know, just to make sure that we've addressed anything I've heard, we've written down, we've done some walkthroughs ourselves of things that we're seeing, just to make sure we've gotten everything before we get that final bill. We've been working with the Moats group with the whole where dirt goes and all of that, and kind of worked out something with lawns are bad. We've got dirt coming to, hopefully good dirt there, like it was topsoil type dirt coming off that football field that'll end up is coming to high school. We need it for the softball field and doing some of that there. So Lonzer's going to work with us. They'll bring the dirt down. We'll have equipment in our high school, moving that, getting that all leveled out and everything to help the softball field. So that's going to happen, and you'll see new fence being put back on the softball field. I feel like the whole these first 2 weeks of summer, all we've done is tear things up, which is kind of a fence coming out, tennis courts coming out. You know, it looks it's just it's a big construction zone. So hopefully we'll start seeing some things start coming around and popping off and starting to put things back together. We've also spent a lot of time, just the preschool move in process. We've got people moved here, we did that first. We've got, as each room is done, we're moving classrooms at a time with all the things. Jody, there's a lot of stuff over there. So, I mean, the teachers that we're bringing it and putting it in the room's clean out. It seems like a lot of stuff. So, hopefully there's a space for everything that's brought over. So just kind of working through that. And I know I spent half of the day with the insurance, the risk assessment. They did a walkthrough of all of our buildings today. Really, the focus was more our kitchens, or anything like kilns that we have in our area, gymnasiums, bleachers, playgrounds, and just really looking at it from an insurance perspective if we have any liabilities that are out there. So they made a couple small things, some couple ideas we wouldn't have really thought of, but we, some notes are going to summarize that and get that back to us. Talk about knives with, come I think of like, where are the knives and are they in a locked area, and then are they distributed when it's to be used and then collected and accounted for? And I'm not sure how we do that, but when we went out, I couldn't find any knives anywhere. So we must have locked them up and put them somewhere, but just things like that I don't know that we always just think about that could be something could happen. And then, see, just to your point, I just want to clarify something when we were talking about ESSER monies and, some of those bigger purchases that we made. I mean, I feel that with the capital money that we get each year that Kim allocates, it's enough to do all of the maintaining of things. We fix small things, this, that, and the other, but it's never enough money to do those big high dollar, a roof, that if we do one major roof, it takes up 75% of our capital money that we have for the year. So I think that, having some of these, that's sort of at one time only, it's kind of like what we had 20 years ago when we had the building and the remodeling. That's when all the big projects were done. Yes, keeping, so much back and keeping them maintained. I mean, we do have the money, I think, to keep them maintained. It's just when those every 20 years type thing, where we have those high dollar amounts. You know, it'll happen again 20 years from now. Maybe you or I won't be here as part of that, but
Yeah.
we got to think about that as, you know, we make decisions and look forward on all this stuff. Let's see, we worked on our sound system, maybe costs, we have to replace that, at the rewire and do all that at the stadium. And a lot of small things, we're doing signs at for the field house and the wall is the same, and paint. Lois, I can't, we have a paint, of all things, we have shortages with paint, heating filters, doors, steel doors. So I didn't forget about your dugouts, they're painting, but they don't have the paint yet. So I'm on the waiting list and I have it ordered, but it's just like, it's been very difficult to, I mean, you really have to be thinking like months ahead, because like you go to do something and something you would think, it's in the past, we got it in a couple weeks, or we get 6 week lead time.
Yeah, the paint is because of the hurricane and the, whatever.
Cold, the freezing in
The freezing,
Houston.
the weather in Texas knocked out
Yes.
the plant, which then
It
stopped
makes a lot of
production.
solvents that are used in paint, and it's
Yeah.
out of Houston.
Yes.
So, Houston,
that's what-
Texas, so
yeah.
when we had that deep freeze and all that, those things broke, that is more of the solvents, so anything that's like solvent based, you know, that's been affected. And so it just adds to the list of challenges that we've had to deal with this past year of, you know, having money and not having the stuff, or, you know, just, it's just things are very much out of balance. So we're working through it, we'll get there, but that's kind of what we've been doing this month, so. Any questions you have for me?
I have a few.
Dude, okay.
Do we have enough metal roofing left to do the concessions there?
We are doing, yes, the metal roof is going on, because what we have, and it's staged at the high school right
Okay.
now. And that same company is coming back. That's, I think what they're probably doing, although they haven't told me, is they're gonna probably come back to the concession stand roof, which is supposed to be maybe a second week of July.
Okay,
They're telling me it'll be ready for them to do it, and then also finish up all the small things at the high school.
okay, good. The second thing is the Circle K fencing coming back to load up all that stuff that's laying over there by the water park?
I would like them to, they haven't yet, and they were kind of saying that really wasn't in the cost to do, and we're discussing that, so I'm working on it. I kind of feel we gave them a lot of business,
Yes.
I want them to take it, so.
Yeah. I was under the impression that they was gonna take.
Yeah,
all
we think
out.
that demolition of, but didn't say specifically haul away,
Okay,
so I'm working on that.
okay. My last thing,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
is we need to secure that area because I saw kids in there today from
Yes.
the water park.
Yeah.
So somehow we need to block that off because they're gonna be starting on that field and they were on the track.
Yeah, I know we've discussed that in some of the construction meetings, and it's kind of a catch-22 because they said, you know, you could spend about $5,000 on temporary construction fence, but they just kind of
Off the fence.
hop over it anyway, it
Yeah.
doesn't really help. I did talk with Circle L of putting the 12th Street fence, the permanent fence,
Yes,
going ahead
yes.
with that. Yeah, I mean, that'll go first, but
Okay.
it still doesn't, they can still come around on the other side and get in.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't really finish the fence until we've got some of those, in some of those other places, we have some of those things done. So I'm just,
Is there any way we can maybe post some signs over there, no trespassing or something?
we can do that.
Stay out, because I saw 6 kids out on the track today whenever I went by there. And the water park was really big.
Yeah, and I know, I think that's gonna continue to be a challenge pretty much all summer with
Summer.
the amount of traffic and,
Yeah.
you know, all of that stuff going on. I mean, in that intersection, we're talking about doing that, storm sewer and all that. There's been trucks down there every day for the past week working on, everybody's doing a little bit of, the water department was down there with some of turning off our water. The street department's been down there. There's a really just congested, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. Well, I'm concerned about the liability if somebody gets in there and gets hurt, our liability.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned because, we
And I
have
know
doors
you
on
are
that
too.
building too,
We all are,
So,
Okay. And I did see, and I talked to Langdon today, he was down there marking, apparently for the new.
water lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't
Yeah. he was
tie-ins and
marking.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think that, Beaver is going to continue and put that storm sewer pending,
Yeah.
there's approval tonight of that.
Okay.
But I think, they're ready to go and everybody's really working together to try to get this done in a tight time frame. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Hey, thank you.
anything else?
Okay, thank you.
I did see the tennis court stuff was getting
Oh,
picked up,
Oh, yeah.
picked up one Saturday. I stopped and talked to a few
Yeah.
people, it was picking it up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another
That's nice.
win-win because, we just have to, we don't have room for all, we have to haul it,
Right.
throw it, do it,
I
recycle
think it
it.
pretty much got picked up, didn't it?
There's about maybe 25% of it left. So I said, I've really been kind of waiting, we were to have, the kids start the summer for the work and it hadn't started yet. So that's why I put that out there, just like, hey, you have until such and such a time, which is when I'm gonna get people to help pick it up, whatever's left. So we'll start going through and cleaning up the rest and recycling that.
Some of that old fencing, if they're just disposing of it, could somebody, if we didn't want it, and what would the liability be of picking it up though?
There's a lot of it laying.
Just come
It's a
pick it
lot.
up. As far as, come at your own risk would be that they took it. Scrap right now is up
Yeah.
Right.
for recycling.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was working with Circle L, is they it's just more people with trucks big enough to load all
You'd
the
be
stuff.
surprised.
But, that might be the way we go, because our guys, our maintenance and our
Yeah.
custodians,
I didn't ask about the fencing, yeah.
they don't have time to do the fence.
Right.
We talked about that would be, if they weren't so busy for the summer with all the projects they have going on right now, not including what's going on at the stadium, we could recycle that for scrap because it's higher. But at this point in time, when Beth and I talked to say, just tell Circle L, come get it, and they're making money off of it. But if we have to, just open it up to the public and say, get rid of it.
There, you could use, obviously I don't need any
A lot of
of it. You would be
concrete.
surprised, there'd be a lot of people that could use that fencing.
Yeah, the fencing could
There
probably
is.
go, it's the poles with all
The
the
poles with
concrete
the
on it, but I
concrete.
don't know who wants the sledgehammer and all that.
Well, but they
All
gotta
that.
take the concrete with them.
I know, all that off and, yeah.
So
So-
that's the thing. So I
Get
don't
a pole
know.
with concrete.
Yeah, we also, took down the scoreboard, came
Right,
down, and we were going to list that to sell. There were some people asking about it, so we were going to sell that scoreboard. And, also the posts, we had some interest in that, those galvanized steel posts. They're gonna see if they possibly can cut those, and then they would dig the concrete and stuff later. It has to be dug up anyway, but to keep them more intact. If they take those and then just, they'll probably be damaged and
Yeah.
getting them disconnected from the concrete underneath. So that's going on too.
On that fencing and them poles that's laying
Yes.
there,
Yes.
do you have any objection if I talk to Gary Kimball?
Oh, that would be a good,
And,
I'm
See
open,
if they will,
yes.
if they-
I've been a little overwhelmed here the last
Well,
week or
let
two.
me-
It's been a lot, and then when the construction people say, well, the pace is gonna pick up now, I'm just kind of like, just all the, the smaller things, and it is, there, a lot of decision things that have to get done, and we're trying to stay ahead of them, so, I would appreciate that.
Okay, I'll go out and talk to him, and maybe they'll just go and get that stuff, bring it back, and then whatever they want to do with it, then they can. do.
Yeah, the cost of
Okay.
getting it and just getting rid of it, to me,
Yeah.
outweighs
I'll get
what they get
back,
out of it, so.
I'll get back to you. then.
That would be good, thank you,
Okay.
Austin.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a couple things I just, the signs that I have up front here are from Mr. Baldwin's class, that they made those. Those will be for the incoming kindergartners. The administrators that are meeting on Friday said, hey, we'll get those out. So we'll divvy up our signs and get them in the yard to get some pictures hopefully with some of the kids that are coming to kindergarten. And it might spark some people who didn't get their kids signed up for kindergarten at this point. But again, I want to thank Mr. Baldwin's class. On the commendation, those students listed have already received a thank you letter regarding those, but those are the kids who have helped, that Mr. Baldwin said, but he was the man behind all that too. I want to thank Beth Lind for what she's doing this year. You know, the stadium project, but also keeping our summer workers on, you know, getting with the schedule. I mean, just who needs to do what, by when, and all that stuff. So I really appreciate Beth for you doing that. And also our custodians for working with Beth. Just for them to be loading up trucks and moving Tammy and Heather over here last week and files, and it's an undertaking, but everybody has pitched in, and it's going so far smoothly. And starting next month, it'll pick up because we'll be at the field house and they'll be telling our maintenance staff how to run the HVAC system. So, and then all of a sudden it's August and we're getting the keys. So it's coming quickly. Speaking of our maintenance staff, Beth and I are in the process of interviewing for because we ratified the contract with OPSI, there was a new position created. It was district groundskeeper / maintenance position. So we interviewed several people today. We're interviewing several people the rest of the week. Deadline to apply is tomorrow. So we're kind of getting it out there. So on the 28th, we would kind of like to hire that person. And Beth does have a test. So that is a maintenance test. So that is help determining who's the best qualified person for that at this point. So just want to kind of keep you updated on those type of things. So that's all I have under there. Can I go into commendations?
Yes, go ahead.
I've already touched base, but I'll publicly say Willard Rainsburg, Rochelle Miles, Kate McDonald, Berkeley Gottel, Matthew Loy, Anthony Scambrino, Maximus Blake, Barr, for those students that helped us there. Those were that was the people who helped us with graduation, that videotaped it with Mr. Baldwin and putting it Facebook Live. So I apologize that that was the video group, but the team for the letters, we also did there. Stadium donations, Ms. Blair and Jody Hilliard, Marsha Addison, Marty Wells, and Joyce Wright have donated. And it's time for an anonymous donor not to become anonymous anymore. We started this project because we received an anonymous donor of $500,000 to put us over the top to get going. Now we're still short of our goal, but we started this project. So not to be anonymous anymore, but Mrs. Grandison has donated that $500,000 to our project. So I want to thank Mrs. Grandison for that. So when we spoke last week, she said, I don't want to be anonymous anymore. We talked about how, what she's comfortable with as far as what the track would be called and what the tennis court would be called. And so she's got to make that decision. Maybe she just wants to be anonymous behind that and say, I don't want it named, or maybe she does. So she's got to make that decision before we get to it. So we really appreciate it. I mean, it's
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, no public participation, so we'll move on. Executive session, we're going to move that to the end. There may be action or there may not be action. And we're going to do number 2, letter B, and E. Correct? Okay, so we'll move that to the end.
B, 2 is employment, B would be purchase and property and sale property, and E, matters to be kept confidential.
All right. Any addendum items to be pulled?
To be pulled, no, but I have addendum items that need to be added.
Okay.
Item S would be the cooperation agreement between the city of Yorksville and Claremont City Schools. Also, item T would be the purchase of a Collins Ford school van through Rush Bus Centers. And that, I'll just kind of give some backstory on that. Through negotiations with the OPSI, they understood that they're very short on bus drivers and getting kids to trips. And we pushed hard for a school van. There still has to be a bidding process, so it's not a given that we get to take a bus or the van every time. But, we got 3 trips with one evening, and we have to get 11 bus routes home. You don't have enough subs. So this gives us an avenue. And I talked to a coach today that said, mark me down for the certification so I can get that, so I can take a team. So, but that's the reason why that is on there. And Rush Bus is the only group that, in our area, that runs this type of van bus. The truck sales does not do bus vans. I do have some people to be added under employment for Taylor Barker as a substitute for as a summer school tutor, Donna Crothers, and Gina Nyland Ditto. Those are through the Immaculate Conception, and are what we call auxiliary funds for non-public schools. They can tap into part of our Title I dollars to help fund their school. Kim caught it today, or Jody caught it today, one of you guys caught it, that the new state budget potentially, this is what's pending, potentially will have those dollars flow right to the Immaculate Conception. So we want to hire those people this evening, but if the state budget changes and those go right to Immaculate Conception, those dollars don't flow through us anymore.
That's just the auxiliary, we will still have titles
Okay.
through us, the CCIP, federal dollars will still run through us, those Sundays.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. I'll make that motion that we accept letter S, letter T, and letter U. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Beckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sproul?
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison?
Yes.
Mr. Miles?
Yes.
And Mr. Trimmer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Any items to be pulled or separated? I don't think we can, unless you have one.
I had one prior to with the draft agenda, so that stayed in there. So there is something that is pulled separately, but that's not
Okay.
not right now.
So we can move on to the treasurer's report then?
Okay, the May end of month, that completes 92% of our fiscal year now. We did have it was like $251,000 is what our deficit spend was in May. I did move some, the COVID leave that we saw the employees take in the fall, in the early part of the winter. I went ahead and used extra money, reclassified that, so it freed up some of our salaries and benefits. So right now, like I said, as of 92% fiscal year completed, we're running $1,757,000 to the good. So with the passage of OPSI and the passage of the CEA, and with it hopefully get ratified tonight, we did offer a bonus that's the reason why I was able to offer that bonus, is since we were able to watch our spending this year and have the help of the ESSER funds. So on that note, I just need a motion and a second to accept the financial report for the May and the payment of bills, the minutes from our May 10th board meeting and the special board meeting of May 25th. And then also you had seen a request from Kelsey Barnhart to transfer the funds from the HPAC Student Activity Fund, which is no longer going to be used, over to the Principals Fund to help fund some TDIS.
I entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Mr. Mouse, do we have a second? Mr. Trump, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Trimmer?
Yes.
Mr. Beckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison?
Yes.
And Mrs. Sproul?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent.
I have these items broken down. The first one, I would like to separate this one out, just because different, just to separate it because of its importance. Approve the ratification of a 3-year contract with the Claymont Education Association, and that would be from July 1 of 2020, and it will go through June 30th of 2023. In that, there is no change in insurance plan, and there would be $500 for this year that the staff would receive, and I think we're already beginning to send those checks out, and also a 2.5% increase next school year and the following year. And then there's some other language changes that we have. I'm very grateful for the CEA to be able to finalize that deal, and we'll be able to put this and move forward and on a positive note.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion, and I'll make that motion to accept that ratification. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Beckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sproul?
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison?
Yes.
Mr. Miles?
Yes.
And Mr. Trimmer?
Yes. That motion carried, and on behalf of the board, we'd like to extend our very, very thanks to the teachers, to their team, and many thanks from us. Okay? Okay, move on.
Part of the new agreement with the Claymont Association was that after we reach 5 calamity days, that we would be able to go on day 6, go with remote construction, remote learning. So in accordance with the CEA agreement, remote learning will be utilized after the 5th calamity day as determined by myself as a superintendent. We have a couple of reductions in force due to the closure of the preschool building. We have a couple of cooks that will be reduced into next year. We're still moving, people are still bumping from one position to another position. So hopefully at some point these two maybe have an opportunity to come back. Per Ohio Revised Code 3313, .666, twice a year you have to be updated regarding our bullying and harassment, and those will be posted to our website. We had, at this point, 0 bullying and harassment. And the definition of bullying is, where it's repeated over time, and sometimes there's situations where we as administrators don't know of situations that might occur, but when we do know when it is occurring, they deal with it swiftly and take care of it quickly. But that is our results from January through the 27th of May. Recall Granny Lease as a bus driver for next school year. Employed summer custodians Bob Carter and Justin Fellers, and they are currently working at this as of now. Continuing contract for Brian Schilling for the 2021-22 school year. Employee Katina Parks as high school guidance counselor, and she will be at step 7, Masters plus 15. Approve the following handbooks as they're presented. We have the middle schools, the elementaries, primaries, and intermediates. We will get the high schools for you next week or next time, and also the primaries. For the preschools was ready, but I wanted to give that to you in time so you could look it over before a meeting. So just due to time, we'll have to do that in the future. Good contract agreements, as you were in your packets, as East Central Ohio ESC, O Marisa, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and the Kids Link for the 2021-22 school year. The FFA is planning a trip with Camp Muskingum on July 12th through the 16th. Mrs. Kahn and also Sydney Burns, the teacher, will be chaperoning at times and make sure we have chaperones there for that. Board policy was 9.28 as to school wellness. Our That has to be updated periodically to the fall in with the food service. We have some non-renewals of some athletic supplementals for the spring. We accept the resignation of a couple of supplementals as Ed Henry as equipment manager and Tom Lasecki as varsity football assistant. We have 2021-22 supplementals, which would be Alex Fox from high school boys golf, Ed Henry as varsity assistant football, and also Kelsey Lute as middle school volleyball. And then I have attached a list of the non-athletic supplementals. We will have a posting here in the next day or so, because in the contract negotiations, there are some supplementals that changed that are non-athletic. So until those were ratified tonight, we're working on post them, and so we'll do that. For example, they added a cast, and the e-sport was one. So those will be posted in the future. So those staff members can apply. Payment of the Ohio High School Athletic Association tournament workers as listed. We do have a substitute custodian. And as of, you have the cooperation between the city of Uricksville, the purchase of the school van, and also the other individuals as for summer school and through Immaculate Conception. Any questions on those items?
Okay, I entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's report.
I'll move.
Okay, Mrs. Small. Do I have a second? Mr. Trevor. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Sproul,
Yes.
Mr. Trimmer,
Yes.
Mr. Beckley,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mr. Miles.
Yes.
The last item I have is to accept the resignation of Melissa Young as a summer school tutor, effective June 1. I'm disappointed but happy for Melissa. She has full-time employment through the, I think she told me, the water department. So good for her. We will lose a substitute teacher, but I know for her, this is a great thing.
Entertain a motion to, on the resignation of Mrs. Young. I'll make that. Do you have a second? Mr. Young. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Beckley,
Yes.
Mr. Miles,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mrs. Sproul,
Abstain.
Mr. Trimmer.
Yes.
Motion carried. Before we move on, I'd just like to go on record as commending the city of Uricksville, the council. They was very appreciative of our talks, and they voted unanimously to accept our partnership in placing that 30-inch line. And I believe it was like 680 some feet, maybe, approximately, down there. So many thanks to the city of Uricksville, their council. Okay? Okay. You have any new business?
I do not have any new business that I'm aware of.
Okay. Anything from the board for the betterment of our district? If not, we'll move into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Sproul,
Yes.
Mr. Miles,
Yes.
Mr. Beckley,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
and Mr. Trimmer.
Yes.
6:34.
And before we go off air, so those folks that may not come back from watching, we will have a special meeting on June 28th. That will be posted, and it'll be here. And the purpose of that meeting initially was to approve the financials.
The year-end appropriations and the temporary appropriations for next year.
And then if we have an opportunity to hire a district groundskeeper or maintenance person, we have to specifically say what we're going to be doing on the, when we post to the media. So we'll have that out, but those are two items that we would be looking at to do. And also, we would be doing that in the work session, possibly to follow. And then the next regular meeting, that is different from what we had posted. That is July 8th, and it'll be 5:30. That's, we're doing that due to vacations, so.
Okay. We are in executive session. We have exited the executive session at 7:50 and we're back in regular session. Do we have anything else for the betterment of the district?
Well, I want to, Mr. Baldwin give me a list of the students that, through the tech prep class, who helped make these signs that are in front of us. I'm sorry, Mr. Baldwin, but I can't read all your writing. Is it Tyrone?
Timing, okay.
Okay. Bronze, Walt Waters,
Good, wrong course.
Caleb Garbrandt, or Garabrandt, Connor Beckley, Nathan Weigel, Greenlee Hall, Willard Rainsburg, Mason Mehawk, Gavin Clark, Serenity Atkins, Hayden McDonald, James Brown, and I also want to make note that these signs were paid for by the Mustang Pride Committee. So, I want to thank them for that, and then
Yeah, I'd like to send out a, thank you to the Times Reporter for featuring our band director for the class drums for funds for special needs. Mr. House put together a wonderful program with drums for special needs kids, and he also now has taken it to adults. And he's out in the community, and it was featured in the Times Reporter on May 28th. And he's got a wonderful program.
Yeah, we read that.
It's a wonderful article. So I wanted to,
he's actually going to, or has, or going to be presenting here soon at a conference regarding this program that he has.
yeah, he's put a lot of hours, and said it brings a lot of joy to not only the students and the adults that are performing, but the parents that don't get to see maybe their, child with special needs perform with the other kids. This way here gives them a sense of pride, and so I want to thank Mr. Howe for doing that.
And I'd like to, if you can, send a thank you card to the Harrisville City Council on behalf of the Board of Education, commending them on their endeavors to go half with us on that. So,
Do that, and I'm going to drop off those agreements.
okay. All right. Anything else for the betterment of the district? If not, just a reminder, special meeting June the 28th at 5:30 here. And then our regular meeting for July the 8th at 5:30 at the central office. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Okay, second? Walls? I'm sure there's probably no questions on that one. So roll call, please.
Mrs. Sproul,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mr. Beckley,
Yes.
Mr. Miles,
Yes.
and Mr. Trimmer.
Yes. At 7:53, meeting adjourned.